Have you ever paused to really consider what's happening when a child is just completely lost in play? You know, sprinting across a field, maybe leaping over imaginary stuff, or just totally engrossed building some, I don't know, fantastical fort.
Yeah, it really just looks like kids having fun, doesn't it? A great way for them to burn off steam.
Right.
But what if those simple actions, the running and jumping, were actually like a hidden engine,
Hmm.
something driving their growth in really profound ways?
That's exactly where we're headed in this deep dive. We're zeroing in on this idea of whole body play
Yeah.
and the surprisingly big ways it shapes children. We're drawing today from the essential power of whole body play, which pulls together a lot of research, some really compelling meta-analyses and specific studies too.
And our goal really is to kind of distill the core ideas from this, to understand how these activities, climbing, crawling, all that wonderful pretend play, how they actually build a
The
foundation.
foundation for what, exactly?
Oh, we're talking fundamental links to how their brains develop, how they learn to manage emotions, navigate social stuff, and even just get better physical coordination. It's
Yeah.
pretty comprehensive.
Okay, let's dig into that. When we say whole body play, what does that actually mean? Why is it, so much more than just running around a bit?
Exactly. It's easy to just see it as like physical activity,
Mm.
exercise.
Yeah.
But the research shows there's a much deeper story, whole body play, where kids are using their big muscles, moving around.
Yeah.
It isn't just exercise. It's literally helping build the architecture of their developing brains.
Wow.
And it's
Okay.
teaching them how to understand and respond to their feelings, how to connect with other kids, how to master their own bodies.
So it's definitely not just about tiring them out for bedtime then.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And, its impact gets even bigger when their environment, their surroundings, actually encourages that natural curiosity. Well, when it fuels their imagination,
Mm-hmm.
gives them chances for appropriate physical challenges. Think about the difference. A child just exploring a playground freely versus, say, following a set exercise routine.
Right. And you mentioned it's different from structured exercise. What's the key distinction there?
Yeah, that's crucial. Whole body play is usually driven from within the child. It's spontaneous, it feels joyful, it's based on what they want to do in that moment.
So they're in charge.
Pretty much. They decide what, how, for how long. And that child-led aspect, that seems to be what really sparks those developmental leaps. It's different from just following instructions in a workout.
Okay, let's try and bring this to life a bit. What are some actual examples of whole body play we might see?
Okay, picture this. Kids turning a living room into a giant fort with blankets and chairs.
Uh-huh. Classic.
They're crawling through tunnels, lifting things, figuring out how to connect parts,
Mm.
all totally engaged. Or maybe a kid playing the floor is hot lava, leaping between cushions.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Or pulling a wagon full of stuff, dancing like crazy to music, swinging really high, a game of tag or hide and seek, even just chasing bubbles. Simple joy, right?
It sounds like the common thread is that mix of physical action and imagination.
Precisely. It's powered by their curiosity, their creativity, and all that rich sensory feedback they're getting from moving.
Mhm.
It's not about following adult directions.
It's exploration.
Yes, active exploration and discovery. And while they're doing it, they're naturally building connections between their thinking, their movement, and their ability to manage their feelings.
Now, let's zoom in on the brain side for a second. How does all this physical stuff actually affect, cognitive development, thinking skills?
It's fascinating, actually. These large motor movements, they seem to stimulate key brain regions,
Yeah.
especially the ones in charge of what we call executive functions.
Executive functions, like the brain's CEO.
Kind of, yeah. Think of it as the control center.
Yeah.
It manages things like focusing attention, resisting impulses, not just blurting things out and thinking flexibly, adapting to changes.
Those sound like pretty essential life skills.
Absolutely fundamental. And that 2024 meta-analysis you brought up earlier, Wise and colleagues, it provides really strong evidence here.
Right, the one combining multiple studies.
Exactly. So it gives us a more reliable picture. And it found that this kind of whole body, play-centered activity led to real improvements in those executive skills.
Mhm.
Inhibitory control, filtering distractions, working memory, holding info in your head, and cognitive flexibility, that mental agility.
So letting kids run, jump, pretend, it's not just fun, it's literally building better thinking skills. Is that fair to say?
It's maybe a simplification, but yeah, that's the gist.
Mm-hmm.
The meta-analysis also noted that these brain benefits were even clearer when the play had imaginative themes, like pretending, or simple rules, like in tag.
Oh,
It seems like that combination, the physical movement plus the mental engagement, is particularly powerful.
Okay, so the movement itself and then layering on imagination or rules. That makes sense. Now, what about the emotional piece? How does whole body play tie into emotional regulation?
This is where the sensory side of the movement really shines. Activities like jumping, spinning, even that feeling of a safe crash into pillows.
Right.
They provide specific kinds of sensory input. We call it vestibular and proprioceptive input. And it can be incredibly regulating for a child's nervous system.
Vestibular and proprioceptive. Can you break this down a little?
Sure. Vestibular is about your sense of balance and where you are in space, the spinning, swinging. Proprioceptive input comes from your muscles and joints. It tells your brain where your body parts are without looking.
Like pushing, pulling.
Exactly. Pushing, pulling, lifting, that deep pressure from a hug or landing softly. These sensations can be really grounding. They help kids self-soothe when they feel overwhelmed or just release pent-up energy constructively.
So it's like a natural way for them to manage their internal state, their feelings.
That's a great way to put it. And the American Academy of Pediatrics back in 2018 really emphasized how this child-led, joyful play cuts down stress and builds resilience, especially when caring adults are nearby, providing that safety net.
That feeling of connection during play, yeah, that's huge.
Absolutely vital.
You often see kids sort of working through big feelings in their play, don't you? Even if they can't name them. Okay, now what about interacting with others? How does this shape social skills?
Well, movement play is just fantastic for practicing social skills naturally. Take a simple game like tag.
Okay.
They have to agree on rules, take turns being it,
Yeah.
communicate who they're chasing, read body language to see where someone might go.
It's like constant social negotiation, but fun.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's a low-pressure practice zone. And those play areas that encourage movement climbing frames, pretend scenarios needing teamwork, they create these relaxed settings for kids to connect. They learn cooperation, expressing ideas, seeing other viewpoints, often without even realizing they're learning social skills.
It's just part of the game.
Right.
And you mentioned earlier there were some particularly interesting findings for children with autism.
Yes, this is a really important point. That 2024 meta-analysis by Coe, it found that interactive physical activities actually improved peer engagement and social participation for kids on the autism spectrum.
How does that work?
Well, it seems the shared physical activity itself creates a kind of common ground, a natural context for interaction that might be harder to find in, say, quieter, more sedentary activities.
That's really encouraging. And wasn't there also a more recent pilot study focusing specifically on autism?
That's right, a 2025 pilot study Su, Srinivasan, and Bott. They compared movement-based play to more sedentary play in kids with ASD, and the results were pretty striking.
What did they find?
The group, doing the whole body movement play, showed significant improvements in impulse control. They also had fewer sensory-seeking behaviors, maybe less constant fidgeting and fewer negative behaviors overall.
Wow.
And maybe most importantly, they spent more time actually engaged and on task during the play sessions.
That's a clear difference compared to the other group, the sedentary play.
Correct. Sedentary play didn't yield those same benefits. The researchers basically concluded that, for kids with autism, using play-based movement should be a key strategy for clinicians and educators. It really supports development, especially around executive function and behavior.
It sounds like such a powerful and hopefully accessible tool. So for the adults listening, parents, teachers, therapists, what are some practical ways to encourage this? It sounds like maybe just saying go play isn't always enough.
Well, unstructured free play is definitely vital. We shouldn't discount that. But adults can absolutely create environments that invite and enrich this kind of play.
Like how?
Think about setting up simple obstacle courses. Use things you already have. Tunnels from blankets over chairs, cushions to climb over, maybe masking tape on the floor for a balance beam, spots to jump between.
That sounds doable even in small spaces. Other ideas?
Themed pretend play areas are great if they naturally involve movement. You could have a firefighter academy corner crawling under things, carrying hoses, or a jungle expedition swinging from vines, climbing logs.
Getting creative with it.
Exactly. And don't forget the outdoors. Safe climbing on structures or natural things, chasing games, hide and seek. Timeless stuff.
And indoors, just providing the right materials can help too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Big pillows, blankets for forts, and safe crashing. Cardboard boxes are amazing. They can be spaceships, race cars, anything requiring maneuvering.
So versatile.
The key is offering variety, maybe rotating materials sometimes to keep it fresh, spark new ideas. Even small stations in classrooms or therapy rooms can work. The main goal is just encouraging kids to move their whole bodies with purpose, and imagination.
So it's not just any movement, but movement with that intention, that creativity behind it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this kind of play, it doesn't just support development right now. It actually plays a crucial protective role for their long-term well-being.
Protective. How does that work?
When kids have these nurturing, joyful play experiences with adults they trust, they're literally building stronger, more resilient brain
Like
connections.
reinforcing the foundations.
Exactly. It lays the groundwork for social emotional awareness, language, self-regulation, dealing with challenges, and those critical executive functions, setting goals, staying focused.
So it impacts so many areas down the road.
Yeah, definitely. And think about that serve and return interaction we talk about in early childhood, that back and forth during play. It actually helps regulate the child's stress response system.
Ah, like a buffer.
Yes, buffering against the harmful effects of chronic stress. The AAP's 2018 statement really highlights this. And conversely, when kids don't get enough of this safe, connected play, it can unfortunately hinder executive function development and even impact their pro-social behavior, getting along with others.
That really drives home how essential play is. It makes you think about the pressure some schools feel to cut recess for more academics.
It is concerning.
Hmm.
And that's exactly why it's so important for educators, healthcare providers, parents, all of us, to advocate for balance. Supporting playful, full-body movement isn't just a nice extra. It's a necessity for healthy development.
So to kind of wrap up our deep dive here, what's the main takeaway message about whole body play?
I think the core message is just how essential it is. Whole body movement play is absolutely fundamental for nurturing really every aspect of a child's growth and well-being. It's way more than just physical activity.
It's tangled up with their thinking, emotions, social skills.
Deeply interwoven.
Yeah.
And it holds particular promise, as we discussed, for children with autism or sensory processing differences.
Right. Offering a powerful, enjoyable way to help with focus, behavior, sensory regulation.
Exactly. In a way that really resonates with their needs.
So, for everyone listening, maybe the call to action is to look closely at the environments we shape for kids. How can we intentionally build in more chances for this kind of big movement play? Even small tweaks could make a real difference.
And maybe this leads to a bigger question to ponder. What if prioritizing movement and play in childhood actually had ripple effects? Effects far beyond just individual kids, maybe positively shaping our communities, our whole society. What is a fundamental part of thriving was as simple and, let's face it, as fun as just letting kids move?